Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Let's Clear the Air with Dr. Melissa, the Purpose Prophetess. This is a show where we are seeking to clarify and live in our purpose so that we can live lives that is authentic and unapologetic, and so that ultimately we can create that financial freedom, that life of abundance, and create a legacy of generational wealth for ourselves and our families. If you are here rocking with me, then you are a person that knows that there's more to life than you are seeing. You're like me. You have something in your belly that you haven't given birth to, or you want to find that thing that sets your soul on fire. Either way, you're in the right place. You are a purpose person. You are a purpose people. And I'm going to call you my purpose peeps for short. And I want you to know that I am your coach, I am your teammate, and I am your cheerleader. So you see, I've got the whole game on lock. Now, let me warn you today that today's episode, I am going to be dropping the F-bomb a lot. In fact, if I had to name this particular episode, it would be called Get the F Out of Here. Because I am going to be talking about that nasty, low down, nasty, dirty, 4-letter F word. And no, not the F word that you might be thinking. The F word that I'm referring to is fear. So let me paint you a picture. I want you to imagine your life as a book where you are both the author and the main character. And every day that you're blessed to wake up and take in oxygen, you're handed a pen, right? But here's the kicker. It is absolutely your choice what story you want to write. Now, I want you to think about something though. What if you're not the one actually holding the pen? Oftentimes we have lives and stories that we don't feel connected to. Have you ever said, this can't be my life? Like, I never imagined that this would be the story of my life. I will tell you what I'm finding is that oftentimes when we say that, when we feel that, it is because we're having our stories written, but we're not actually holding the pen. I want to ask you, are you allowing fear to hold the pen? Are you allowing fear to sketch out your pages? And when you look through your book, you see pages filled with what ifs and some days. I will tell you if that's the case, you're in the right place, because what I want to inspire you to do is to be ready to grab that pen. Don't grab it, snatch that pen from fear and start writing the chapters for your life that fills your heart with joy and makes your spirit set on fire. I want you to remember that this analogy that I'm giving you, this book of your life, fear might be a character. And I'm going to actually say fear will be a character. It's just a natural part of life. But fear does not get to be the author of your story. So when you're thinking about what your next chapter is going to be, I want to ask you, are you ready to write a story? Are you ready to write your book and make it about you unapologetically and authentically? Yeah, good. When we talk about fear and its impact on purpose, oftentimes we fear the unknown and fear the challenges that may come with trying to walk in a purposeful life. You know, we allow doubt and fear and external pressures and societal expectations, who they say we need to be. We allow all of those things to hold us back from fully expressing ourselves and living a life that is truly lined up and aligned with our deepest desires and passions. I will tell you, it's as if we've been almost conditioned to play small and to settle for mediocrity. It's like we've been conditioned to love comfort and familiarity rather than taking the bold risks that we need to fulfill our dreams and to live in our purpose. But I will tell you that when we do that, we deny ourselves the opportunity to experience the abundance, the joy, the fulfillment, and the impact that comes from living authentically. We deny ourselves the opportunity to embrace the unique gifts and talents that we've been blessed to possess. Were you afraid of the boogeyman? I don't know if you were like me, but I was one of those super scary kids, right? I was one of those kids that would tuck myself up real tight under the covers. And I was so certain that I heard a monster, a boogeyman, underneath my bed or in my closet. And it's so amazing because I would literally hear the sounds, see the shadows, and I would lay there, my heart racing, just heart palpitating, sweaty palms, just terrified until I would gather the courage to get up and turn on the light. And each time I would do that, I would find that there was absolutely nothing there. No monster, no boogeyman, no danger, just my familiar room, safe and sound. Let me ask you, how many times in your life have you found yourself frozen by fear? Fear over the boogeyman, fear over the monster that actually turned out to just be in your imagination. How often do we let things that we perceive keep us from walking in our purpose, from taking steps and taking actions and calculated risks? What I have found is that fear loves the darkness. It loves being hidden. And oftentimes, when we expose that fear, when we shine the light on our fears, we find that it wasn't what we thought at all. So, what I want us to talk about today is how can we flip that switch? How can we turn the light on to our fears so that we can not just overcome our fears, but be able to move and to take action and to live in our purpose, not in the absence of fear, because it may never go away, but in spite of the fear. Okay? Are you with me? Good. Let's turn on the lights. We're going to flip the script on fear. We're not going to run from it. We're going to embrace it. And we're going to use that using a powerful little acronym, FEAR. So the first part of the acronym, F, is face your fears. The first step to overcoming your fears is that you got to face it. Remember, you guys, I talked about earlier how that boogeyman, that monster, only exists in the darkness. And it's amazing. The moment we shed light, the moment that we illuminate that situation, we realize that what we thought was there wasn't actually there. I can tell you that many, many times in my life, I've been in situations where what I thought was looming, what I thought would happen. And it's amazing, you guys, we always make our imaginary monsters bigger and hairier than they actually are. I mean, it's amazing. We'll go real deep, real deep to make something as scary as possible. But many, many times in my life, once I confronted that fear, once I moved in spite of that fear, what I found was, what? That's it? Oh, I thought it would be much worse than that. I thought it would be much harder than that. So this first step is just to face your fears. Sometimes we're running away from things that we should be running to. We're running away from things that seems daunting. But when we turn around and face them, we realize that they're not giants. They're not monsters at all. It's actually just a shadow. It was actually just a branch. hitting up against the window that made that sound. It wasn't the Boogie Man. It wasn't Jason or Freddy Krueger. As you can tell, I watched way too many horror stories back in my day. So, first step is to face your fears. You can't fix what you won't face. The next step, the E, is to evaluate and educate yourself. And so, what do I mean by that? I talk a lot about self evaluation, but in this case, I'm talking about evaluating your fears, like asking yourself, what am I afraid of? Am I afraid of rejection? Am I afraid of failure? Am I afraid of the unknown? Am I afraid of other people's judgments of me? Another important point for me to make about evaluating your fears is to assess them, because oftentimes our fears are rooted in past experiences, things that happened before. And if those things were painful or traumatic or uncomfortable, we'll find ourselves attaching that experience to everything going forward. So when I say evaluate your fears, I want you to sit with it for a minute, really get clear on what you're afraid of, and then start to go back and look at the root of it. Is it a poor perception? Is it a past experience? Did something really actually happen to you that now you're attaching to everything in the future? So it's important to evaluate our fears. The second part of this E was educating yourself. And I will tell you that this part is so important. Educating yourself simply means equipping yourself with information about the particular fear that you have. For example, you guys know that I've always had this crippling fear of flying. I mean, it was just one of those things. But I will tell you that one of the ways that I was able to really move through that fear, it's not gone, but to really face that fear and to be able to fly anyway, was that I embarked on this whole thing about educating myself. I started reading things about the principles of aerodynamics and a whole bunch of nerdy stuff. I started reading statistics about plane crashes and realized that that was just such low statistics of actual plane crashes. Getting that information, getting that education helped me to start to confront those fears. Really, because I was able to say, well, yeah, I'm afraid of like crashing, but that really doesn't happen as often as my mind told me. It really wasn't the boogeyman that I was making it out to be. So it's very important to educate yourself about your fears. Whatever that fear is, start gathering information, research. Oftentimes you'll find that your perception of that fear is false. It's not really rooted in reality or truth. Okay. The next step is the A, and that A is acceptance. You guys, the thing about accepting fear, I think we spend a lot of time, and I said earlier, sometimes we just want to get the F out of here, get the fear out of here. But what I want to invite you to do is to understand that fear is absolutely natural and may never go away completely. And I'll be honest with you, in some instances, we need fear. Fear is instinctual. It's that thing that helps us to respond quickly when we're in the face of danger. So fear in and of itself is not bad. It's not negative. It is when we allow fear to keep us from moving forward and doing the things that we need to do, from moving in our purpose. That is when fear becomes a negative. So let's just go ahead and wrap our arms around the fact that fear is natural. Fear is normal. And fear may never go away. And so why is this important? It's important because when we have an acceptance, once we realize, hey, I'm probably going to be afraid anytime I do something big and hairy. I'm probably going to be afraid anytime I play big. Once we acknowledge that, we're able to then not exert so much effort and energy in trying to get rid of the fear. I need to stop being afraid. I don't know why I'm afraid. I need to stop. We can stop doing that and we can channel our efforts to getting the thing done that we need to do in spite of the fear. So it is so important to just accept This is fear. How you doing? What's up? Have a seat. I knew you were going to come. I already knew. I kept your seat there. Now I need you to sit back and watch me work because I'm going to do this thing in spite of you. So that's the A. The last part of the acronym, the R, is something that I'm so big on, and it is all about reframing your perspective. The definition of fear, let me just tell you this. Let me get real nerdy on you. It's a response to perceived threats or dangers. And that word perceived is the key. It is our perceptions of danger or threats. It is entirely possible that sometimes what we perceive to be a threat is not a threat at all. It is entirely possible that what we perceive to be dangerous, it is dangerous to get on this plane and fly to the wonderful Caribbean and have an amazing vacation. It's not really dangerous at all. So it's all about reframing our perspective about fear. I want to take one particular fear that we have often and sort of help us to deep dive into that. It is the fear of failure. Most of the time, many of us have a fear of failure. We don't take action because we are afraid that we're going to fail and we're going to lose. But what if we reframed failure to be foundational? What if we realized that failure is not fatal, it's not final, it's formative, it's foundational, it's an opportunity to learn. So it's if you look at it as if every mistake is actually a lesson in disguise, you'll start to realize that those things that you feel like you failed at actually was a springboard to what you really needed to do. If you don't believe that, talk to Michael Jordan when he first picked up a basketball. I promise you it wasn't pretty. I promise you he wasn't floating through the air. He wasn't Air Jordan. He was Brick Jordan. Because failure was built into the process of becoming better. So if we reframed our fears to understand that one, our fear of failure is actually foundational. We need that in order to become better at something. And two, what if I told you that our fear is the evidence that we're playing big in the world? So whenever I start to feel fear, I realize, I must be doing something amazing. I must be venturing out of my comfort zone. I must be taking a risk on something. Because in the comfort zone, I don't worry about too many fears. I'm doing what I know how to do and I do it every day and I feel like I've got this. And so there's not a lot of fear in that. But anytime we're venturing to do something amazing, anytime we're embarking into new territory, fear will show up. But guess what? That's your evidence that you are showing up and playing big in the world. You guys, there's an elephant in the room. Let's start today by acknowledging the elephant in the room. And that elephant is fear. Fear is that sneaky little voice in our heads that tells us that we're not good enough. It tells us that we can't make it. It tells us that we're too old or it's too late. It tells us that we don't deserve financial freedom. But guess what? Fear don't get to call the shots. We do. And today we are flipping the script. Today I want us to talk about how we can overcome our fears and align our purpose with our business or professional endeavors. Because we know that once we do that, once we get in that alignment that we've talked about before, that is what leads us to financial freedom. And that all starts with overcoming fear, and it starts with a vision. So I want you to close your eyes for a moment, just a moment. If you're driving, please don't do that. Pull over, or you can watch the replay later. But if you can, close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself living a life where your work is not just a job, but a calling. Picture a life where every action you take is filled with passion and purpose. I want you to envision financial freedom, not as some pie in the sky concept or a distant dream, but as a reality waiting for you to claim it. What I want you to know is that not only is that possible, it's your birthright. So let's talk about how we get there. First of all, let's talk a little bit about action steps. You know, I'm very pragmatic. And so we can talk about purpose and passion and abundance and all of those really, really ethereal types of terms. But if we don't get pragmatic and practical, oftentimes they just remain those kind of pie in the sky concepts, very woo woo, but nothing really happening in our lives. When we talk about action steps, the first step is to get clarity. And that, you guys, is what I'm on here talking about each episode. We've got to be clear. We've got to get crystal clear on our purpose, who we're called to be, what we're called to do, so that we can now align that with our business or our professional goals. You see, when you have a clear vision of where you're going, when fear starts to put its grip on you, I've talked before about how it sets our course. It's like that lighthouse. It's like, yeah, I'm afraid. However, I'm clear about where I'm trying to go. So clarity is key. That's the very first step. Next, you want to set some goals. And I've said to you, if you're failing to plan, then you're planning to fail. We have got to be able to break down that vision. We've got this vision. This is who I'm called to be. This is what I want to do. And now we have to take that big vision and break it down into actionable steps. For example, what do you need to do today, this week, this month, to move closer to your purpose and to your financial freedom? Every small step counts, but you know, the ending of a journey, the embarking on a journey starts with that first step. And I want you to understand that it leads you to this next thing. And that's where the magic really starts to happen. And that is taking bold action, even when you're uncomfortable. You know, I heard a quote by Aaron Snipes III. And Aaron Snipes III said, "There is little growth in the comfort zone, and there's little comfort in the growth zone." Wow. Yeah, we're going to be talking about stepping out of the comfort zone. So before you run out to Google Aaron Snipes III, let me tell you that Aaron Snipes III is a music teacher. I learned of Aaron from my amazing producer who makes me look amazing. And that quote from him was something that my producer shared with me. And it impacted me greatly because here I was talking to my producer who had been so profoundly impacted by this teacher that years later, he still, that quote still resonated with him to the point that he shared it with me. Now, a couple things that I want to really say about that. First of all, the wisdom in that quote is profound. There is little growth in the comfort zone and little comfort in the growth zone. Whenever we step out of our comfort zone, it is uncomfortable by nature of the word. We find in that comfort zone oftentimes the familiarity of being complacent, mediocre. We're able to do the things that we feel equipped to do. We do the things that we feel we're capable of doing. And so the comfort zone, believe it or not, becomes a glorified cage because we work within the parameters of what feels comfortable, of what feels familiar. But I want you to know that the comfort zone is also the zone of mediocrity. Very few amazing things happen in the comfort zone. Growth, as Aaron said, rarely happens in the comfort zone. The comfort zone is the place of complacency and not growth. By contrast, very little comfort in the growth zone means when we're playing big, when we're in that growth zone, when we're pushing ourselves, when we're embarking on our purpose, oftentimes we won't feel comfortable. We will feel unsettled. We will feel inadequate. So I want you to understand that sometimes we're putting off things. We're putting off pitching an idea or investing in ourselves, in our growth, because we are afraid of that feeling of inadequacy. But that is where the magic really happens. That is where you will embark upon the freedom to be your best self, to live your purpose, and to make an impact on this world. And I want you to understand that oftentimes when we're talking about purpose and impact, we are thinking about some global movement where everybody in the world knows who we are. And we are out there and we're jet setting and all of that. And all of that is possible if that is indeed what you're called to do. But you've missed the point of impact if you're thinking that it can only happen if 10 million people heard it. Because Matt, my producer, shared with me the impact that his teacher made on him. Aaron Snipes III woke up in the morning, answered the call for his purpose to impact young minds and young lives. And today, some chick that he doesn't know is talking about him. I would say that's pretty good impact. So let's talk about a fear that often hides in the shadows. It's one that's not commonly discussed. It's one that we don't talk about a lot, but it is the fear of success. We're clear about the fear of failure, but what if your fear is of actually succeeding? Let me ask you, have you ever felt that anxiety, that whisper of doubt when you think about what it could mean to actually succeed, to actually have abundance in your life? And I know it sounds counterintuitive and crazy, but I am telling you that for many, many years of my life, I had moved past the fear of failure. I had gotten really cozy with that. Hey, this is a lesson, and I was super clear on that. But what I realized is that I was terrified of succeeding. It was like, oh my goodness, what if it works? I was no longer saying, what if it doesn't work? I was like, what if it does work? Am I ready? Am I capable? Am I smart enough? Am I fast enough to handle not the weight of scarcity, but am I able to handle the weight of abundance? It's like standing on the edge of greatness, filling the pool of your dreams. You know it's going to happen, but you're hesitating to take that leap into the unknown. So let me ask you, I've been transparent. Is the fear of success holding you back from unlocking the doors to wealth and abundance that's waiting for you? Are you ready to step out of the shadows and embrace your purpose and let go of all of those limiting beliefs that keep you from living a life of true abundance? And believe it or not, some of that, I call it a wealth rejection mindset. Some of that we learned early on. We got poor messages about money and wealth, and we have negative imagery when it comes down to abundance. So some of that will require you to go back and unlock some of those limiting beliefs you have about money and abundance. But today I want us to go on a journey where we actually explore overcoming the fear of success and stepping into that world of wealth and abundance that you deserve. So to kick that off, I have to start with the A word, and that is authenticity. You know that my mantra is that living authentic means just showing up as yourself, unapologetically. It's about owning your values, your quirks, your dreams. It's about not being cookie cutter. Being okay to just stand flat-footed in your selfhood. This is who I am. I'm not called for everybody, but I'm called for somebody, right? It's about then aligning your actions with those values and beliefs, aligning your actions with your purpose and your passion. If I looked at what you do, if I saw you from afar and just watched your behavior, would I have a clue as to who you are? And that is part of that alignment, ensuring that my who and my do are in sync. But here's the secret that you probably don't hear often. When you live authentically in your business and in your professional endeavors, that's when the magic happens. Okay? When you bring your whole self to the table, when you lead your businesses, your professional life with honesty and integrity, purpose and passion, people notice. People can tell a phony from a mile away. People can tell when you're not genuine. People can tell when you're playing a part. But when you're authentic, that becomes your superpower. That becomes your unique selling point. You know, when people are looking at a sea of teachers, a sea of coaches, a sea of caterers, it is your authenticity that separates you out from the rest, because people can smell genuineness. Okay, people are drawn to realness and to authenticity. So your commitment to being authentic is your magnet for success. Now, we talked about authenticity. I want to touch on the P word, which is profitability. And I know most of you are like, amen. Yes, let's talk about that. When you show up authentically in your business, when you lead with that transparency and sincerity, something amazing happens. Your bottom line will start to grow. Why? Because people trust you more. So then you start to see more referrals and collaborations, and your business starts to thrive. Authenticity breeds profitability because people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So keep this in your head, drill it down real deep. Professional success is a byproduct of living authentically. And living authentically is a byproduct of walking in your purpose. Because when you do that, you can lead with integrity. You can stay true to your values and your visions. You will find that doors will open, opportunities will come, and success will follow. Because your authenticity becomes that beacon that guides you through the challenges. It pushes you towards your growth, and it will position you as a leader in your field. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Let's Clear the Air with Dr. Melissa, the Purpose Prophetess. I do not take it for granted that you have decided to invest your time with me here today. Now, if you want more information about me, or if you want to connect with me, I would love to invite you to go to my website, or I would love to have you join us in our free community, the free My Soul Purpose community. There you will be embraced by a bunch of other people who are like-minded and seeking their purpose just like you. So with that, I would like to say that I'm Dr. Melissa, the Purpose Prophetess, your coach, teammate, and cheerleader. And thank you again for joining me. Until next time, live authentically and love on purpose. Take care, you guys.